Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrea Gonzalez with Trellis Strategies, and I'm very excited to have you join us for our 360 discussion series Solutions Summit. We're going to do a quick summary of what today represents for us. So back in October, we started our discussion series on obstacles that keep people from pursuing post-secondary education. We started with a discussion on who pauses their education and why. Then we moved on in November to trust, expectations, and outcomes of post-secondary education. And in December, we met in person and discussed student-ready institutions, processes, and programs. And then last month, we discussed who doesn't start post-secondary education and why. Today, we have brought it together in the 3 one-hour panels. And we want to talk about solutions for all of the obstacles that we've been discussing over the past 4 or 5 months. And our next panel is going to be very exciting because it will give us some information about what's happening on college campuses to encourage post-secondary student success. And I'm excited to hand it over to our president and CEO, Dr. Debra Chromy.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. And thank you for once again pulling together a fabulous panel this afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Trellis 360 Solutions Summit. As Andrea mentioned, my name is Debra Chromy. I am president and CEO at Trellis Strategies based here in Round Rock, Texas. I'm pleased that so many of you have joined us for today's discussion. And for those of you who are into your 3rd hour with us today, you all get gold stars for hanging in there with us. But if you're just joining us, I did want to share that the Trellis 360 series was started over a year ago to bring together industry leaders for thought-provoking discussions on today's higher education and workforce landscapes. Our first series focused on the value of post-secondary education and was so well received that we started our second series on barriers to completion. Our goal with these sessions is that participants gain invaluable insights, share in the discussion, and network with like-minded professionals. I am excited for today's Solutions Summit, which will wrap up our second series on barriers to completion. And we are in our 3rd panel today. And this panel is focused on student support and customer experience. And we are incredibly lucky to have with us today 2 great panelists. First is Dr. Amy Bosley. She is the president of Northwest Vista College, a vibrant and outstanding community of more than 17,000 students. Dr. Bosley is proud to have served the community college mission and students in a variety of capacities throughout her career. In her current role as president, she provides leadership for strategic planning, accreditation, resource development, and champions the work of the leadership team on projects that span the organizational boundaries. So thank you, Amy.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We also have Bob Austin joining us. Bob is Vice President of Enrollment Management at Amarillo College. Bob has been part of Amarillo College since 2003, where he currently serves as Vice President of Enrollment Management. He oversees the areas of admissions, registration, financial aid, and outreach. He has over 30 years of experience in higher education, having worked in New Mexico, South Dakota, and I think at Red Rocks Community College as well. So Bob, thank you for being with us this afternoon as well. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Deborah.
So I'm going to jump right in because our last one, we were running out of time and I don't want that to happen today. So let's start with sort of a hot topic issue, and that is that every couple of days, there is an article referencing the enrollment cliff coming in 2025 for post-secondary education. There's no denying that the birth rate has declined. There are individuals who are concerned about going back to college or the expense or the student loan debt, which has been all over the papers, and question about, is it worth it? There are 40 million people across the country that have some college but no credential, and over 4 million of those are just right here in Texas. And as we discussed in the last panel on alternative credential pathways, and I know you both may not have been able to be here for all of that, there is still a high demand and need for skilled workers, and probably even more so as technology rules every aspect of our lives. Can you each take a minute to share your approach to engaging with your learners and give us a sense of what the mindset is on your campus and with your colleagues in their interactions with today's learners? And I'll start with you, Amy.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks again. Hi, Bob. It's nice to meet you. Debra, nice to meet you too. I'm a new Texan, so I'm excited to be on the panel today. One of the things that I continue to be thinking a lot about is the mindset of our colleges that we have one chance to serve a learner, and that once they get a credential that we're finished. And I think that's a mindset that's going to have to shift given all of the factors that you just described, right? There's a book, it's called Long Life Learning. And this premise is that, when people are living regularly to the age of 100, an academic degree that you received when you were 21 or 22 isn't likely going to serve you well throughout your career, and you're going to need to re-up your skills. And so I think that we just have to shift our perspective to be the college for life kind of a perspective, which is going to change the way we serve learners, right? We can't act like we don't know them when they come back to get that next credential. We have to make those processes and that experience really seamless for them. But I think that if we can unlock our own thinking around this, okay, well, they got their AA degree and now we're, never have this person come back to us. I think that that's a way of us thinking about a longer framework on enrollment and on continuing to serve our communities. When you ask about kind of the mindset that I'd like the college to have around this, it is that we are, first of all, that we're incredibly privileged to serve the students who trust us with their education. And that this is an opportunity to build a really solid, strong relationship so that obviously students would come back to us when they need upskilling or they need, to change career direction.
Great. Thank you, Amy. And turning now to Bob and what you're seeing at Amarillo College.
So one of the things that we've been working on over the last several years is focusing on how we onboard students and trying to be a lot more thoughtful about that. Historically at community colleges, we kind of had the if we build it, they will come attitude. And, it's like open the door and say thanks. And that's the last kind of positive interaction that you have. And the rest of it is like, hey, we're going to work you hard and you're going to prove that your college material by us creating false obstacles and artificial barriers all along the way so that you can continue to prove that you belong here in your college material. So we rethought that over the last several years. We have really backed up our relationship with the student all the way into the high school. About a year and a half ago, we adopted a QEP for our SACS accreditation called Smart Start to Finish. And the way that it's designed is it starts with the student in mind while they're still in high school. And we're trying to be thoughtful about our interaction with these students, especially traditional age students, while they're still in high school, and trying to be thoughtful about how we guide them through a process that eventually leads to them being enrolled in school. Our simple theory of change is that if everything that happens to you before you're actually in a seat is bad, then chances are during that first semester, when things really do get rough, if you were already thinking about jumping, you're going to go ahead and jump. And so we've got a lot of work to do. I don't want to oversell this. We continue to see our problems that we've created for ourselves, but we're looking at tweaking things and getting better to create a better experience for students as they're coming through the door. Because as you guys know, as everybody out there knows, in some ways, you really have one chance to get it right in that first semester, right? We know that if we can keep them through the first semester and especially through the first year, that their chances of graduating are dramatically better. But we have to get it right in that first semester. And so those are the things that we're focused on right now.
Now, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the things, Amy, that you alluded to was the fact that education is no longer linear. And that, I think I love what you're doing, Bob, and backing up into the high schools. But we also know that adults are a bigger percentage of those that are going on to some type of post-secondary education. So to your point, thinking about them and where they're at. So if they're working full time, having an office open from 9 to 5 doesn't work. It's they have childcare issues, they have transportation related issues, etc. They need a schedule that is flexible to be able to allow them to work because maybe they do have a child at home, maybe they're a single parent. All of those things sort of become important to this process of bringing folks in. And Amy, I'm sure you're aware of all of that and how that impacts your population as well.
Sure. And I don't know, I can't say with any kind of confidence that we do a great job of serving adult learners 25 and over. I've thought a lot about that, right? So it's enticing to us to work so well with high schools because we know where the learners are. Mm-hmm. It's typically a point of contact, maybe two, right? There's a place to go see them all in one location. And so trying to push us to design services, not for the high school, yes, absolutely, critical pathway. I don't want to discount that at all. And most of what I've seen us do in community college, I was at Valencia College for 23 years, and now I'm here at Northwest Vista College. It is a little bit of a path of least resistance, right? I can demonstrate outcomes. I can show progress. When I'm trying to get an adult learner, it's like one of those slippery, like where are they and how do you find them and how do you get them in one collection without running yourself ragged and wearing out your team because it is that one-to-one kind of a relationship. So I've been thinking a lot about how we find coalitions with employers and how we find professional associations and partners like the Y and like where are the adults and how do we reframe our thinking to not the one-off that's going to see the billboard, but the place where there's a collection of adult learners, because I think that's a real challenge for us. And Deborah, to your your comment about systems, right? Our systems are not designed for this. They're designed for the matriculation between high schools and college. And so, it's so difficult. An adult learner has already made so many choices to get themselves there. And then we present barrier after barrier after barrier, or we act like we've never seen them before. And they maybe have come to our college and have credits there, right? So I think that we're going to have to really rethink that experience and process for adult learners, really kind of designing it uniquely for their perspective and what they're going to need when they get through the door.
Yeah. And then Bob, did you want to add something in there as well?
Well, I was just going to say that there's a couple of things that we've done here at Amarillo College over the last several years that we think are having a significant impact. One thing is we established an office called the Advocacy and Resource Center, and it's similar to work that a lot of other community colleges across the country have been doing fairly recently, which is providing social supports to students and especially to adult students so that there's a place where they can go where there are people who are thinking through what is it that adult students might need, just a little extra help to keep them in school. And this office is staffed by 4 full-time master level social workers. I mean, think about that. Amy and I have been working in higher education for quite some time. And if we had gone back 20 years and somebody said, hey, we're going to have an office with social workers, we'd be like, no way. No. That's not college. But it's really had a positive impact on students, especially adult students. And those resources were tested during COVID. And having those supports available was a game changer for us, and really going through COVID helped us to refine those services and to improve them. And the last thing that I'll say is we have we renovated a building here on campus to create an enrollment center. This idea of a one-stop is not new, but we basically renovated a building that was an old gymnasium. And so we changed the way that we're serving students. And one of the things that we did that won't be earth-shattering to a lot of community college people who are watching is that we changed our hours of operation in terms of when we're serving students. So the enrollment center is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then from 9 to 1 on Friday and 9 to 1 on Saturday. So we kind of had to make some adjustments to get to Saturday. And Saturday was really important to me. There was a little pushback on that. And Dr. Bosley knows a little bit about pushback, I bet. But it was the right thing to do because, you know, the point that was made about adult students not being able to be here on campus, oftentimes on weekdays when you have normal traditional operating hours, and to add those extra hours has been a game changer for us. The numbers, the foot traffic's not huge, but you know what? The people who can only come in on Saturday, that means that they have a chance to have their enrollment issues resolved at a time that's convenient for them.
No, that's great. Do you in creating these programs, do you involve students or adult students in that process to provide input into what they need? So
we do seek feedback in, you know, both formal and informal ways. We have definitely surveyed students regarding social supports, and most of those students who are providing feedback are adult students. And so as we've developed this advocacy and resource center, we've made adjustments based on feedback from mostly adult students. The other thing that we do in the enrollment center is we're using queuing software to allow people to check in and be served. And the queuing software has a feedback tool that's built into it that gives students an opportunity to give us feedback immediately. That's been helpful because you can look at this stuff in real time and start to kind of see some things that you need to adjust.
Yeah, that's great. I do want to jump in. We do have one question in the chat. I think it's for you, Bob. What specifically has Amarillo College done to recruit prospective adult learners to learn about the Advocacy and Resource Center so that, I guess, adult learners know that this center exists?
So what we've tried to do is be really thoughtful about targeted communication. So we're leveraging, business intelligence that we have about students who are applying or enrolling based on age, based on their status as parents, et cetera, et cetera. And we have done targeted communication campaigns specifically to those students to let them know that these resources are available. Shout out to Trellis. We're participating in the Project Success program. Mm-hmm. And we have a comm plan that you guys are managing for us, the comm team there at Trellis. And we have included messaging that's specifically designed for students who would most benefit from those resources. Most of those are adult students. And we're finding that the targeted messaging has been helpful to get that message across.
Great. No, appreciate that. Amy, you may not be aware, but I'm pretty sure Bob is, that every year Trellis performs a student financial wellness survey. So you are aware. And the data that comes out of that really shares information about housing insecurity, food insecurity, transportation, childcare, financial, is college worth it? You know, all of those aspects as well. And we're happy to do that because I think it's important, again, going back to the sense of customer service, of knowing what the needs are of your population to be able to address those. Can you talk, I don't know, Bob, if you're familiar, or Amy, if you are, about how you use that data on your campus to address, and I'm going to call your students customers, how you address your customers' issues and concerns.
Sure. Yeah, I am familiar with the research and appreciate it so much. It's really helpful. And Bob, like you, we have a really robust advocacy center and services. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. 20 years ago, all right, maybe even like 10 years ago, I would have shaken my head and said, there's no way we're going to do this, right? And here we are with social workers and psychiatric nurse practitioners and grocery stores and clothing boutiques and diaper centers and all of those robust services. So we really use the data, Deborah, to help us plan out the supports that are needed for our students and to really help gauge kind of order of magnitude. Right. So getting your mind around, okay, we serve 19,000 students in the fall, 17,000 students in the spring. We know about 20% are parents, about half of those are single parents. That's all data that your survey helps us uncover. And then that helps us kind of resource appropriately and think about how many we're able to serve at what level. So it's greatly appreciated and a really trusted data source for us. It's one that we turn to over and over again. I have no problem calling students customers because there are points in time in their relationship with us when they are that. And there are points of time with us when they are learners. And I think that level of understanding when they're in the classroom, they're not a customer, they're a learner, right? But getting to the classroom every day, they're making a decision. They're making a choice. I say we have to re-recruit our students every semester because they have to make an active choice to come back to us. And there are competitors in the marketplace that are sending more appealing messages or making things easier for students, right? And so I think that this notion of not thinking about students as a customer has really held us back in some significant ways in community colleges. Because all that means to me is that they are making a choice and that they have choices to make. And I'm really happy that we live in a place where students do have choices for their education. I think that's a really wonderful part of our culture and society. But then we also have to be prepared to step up and make the choice for students, a really meaningful one when they make the decision to come to the community college, that we do treat them really well. And we take care of the things that they need us to take care of. I remember when we used to talk about like the enrollment and registration process as part of the learning process. They need to learn how to get through there and learn how to register, right? And times have changed and we can say no longer that is a learning process. That is it's just like shopping on Amazon, right? It's just a part of how you live. So I don't mind talking about students as customers. I think where we have to be a little more sophisticated about that is talk about in the classroom that they're learners there, right? And assessing their learning is really different than providing service to them as they're getting registered for classes or preparing to graduate.
Yeah, and I would think that related to that, designing systems and processes that make life easier. Sure. I mean, if you literally could go on an app and choose your classes, maybe you can at both of your institutions, but and be able to do it that quickly and pay your tuition or apply, whatever it might be. From an enrollment perspective, Amy, perhaps you have this experience, but Bob probably sees it every day. It's about how do we not lose people out of the funnel as they're coming in. And Bob, maybe you can talk a little bit about what actions you have taken to sort of mitigate anybody dropping out of that enrollment funnel.
Well, the things that Amy was saying about customer service really resonate with me. There's a reason why proprietary schools, the successful ones, there's a reason why they've been successful, right? I mean, they really think through how to demystify processes. And that's been one of the biggest challenges for us because traditionally what we are is we're traditionally very bureaucratic in higher education. We tend to be gatekeepers instead of engagers. And so it requires us to be thoughtful. It requires us to think through our processes and to keep an eye on things to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. I was talking earlier about this enrollment center and the fact that we built it in a gymnasium. And the reason why that was important to us is functionally what we did is the people who have offices are kind of in the background doing office stuff. Mm-hmm. And our model is basically when you walk in the building, if we don't know who you are, then we know exactly what you need, right? You're a new student. We know what new students need to get started. If we do know who you are, then we also know what you need. In fact, we even know more about what you need because we know exactly where you are in the process. And it's our job to tell you what's next, not your job to try and figure out what's next. An ideal interaction for us would be that a student wanted to enroll for classes and they came to the enrollment center and they came in the building. They were there for maybe a while, right? Because sometimes, there's things we have to work through, testing and so on and so forth. But they were there for an hour and a half. And when they left, they had a schedule in their hands and that they couldn't explain how or why, right? All they knew is that they're going to be college students. And the next thing that they need to do is to show up on the first day of class and be in class, right? So we have enough information, right? It's about how you deliver the information, how you serve it. Now, it's not perfected. I don't want to oversell it. It's not perfected. But if the college president asks me how it's going, it's perfect. So that's where things stand.
I just want to say really quickly, do you mind if I tag on, Deborah?
No, not at all.
Okay, I'm just laughing, Bob, because you said they know that they're a college student. And we've been talking so much about how this demystification process is so critical. And we had a colleague who was saying, he went to EMT school and it was in the CTE program and part of it was in CE. And all he wanted to know was am I a college student? And it was such a good reminder to us of this nonsense that we create internally is it's helpful from an organizational perspective to know who reports to whom and where the things get cataloged. But when we allow that dysfunction to impact students, we've kind of lost our way. And so I love when you said, they leave with a schedule and they know they're a college student. And that's the level of information that they need. So I like that. I like that approach.
So if I could jump in and ask, you both said Bob started with 20 years and then you went to maybe 10 years. Can you both talk about cultural change that has taken place on campus and among administrators? Because I'm sure they say it takes, 6 to 8 years for change to take place, but I'm sure this was a difficult transformation for people who have worked in college administration for a number of years to start treating people differently. So, Amy, you're doing a lot of nodding. So I'm going to start with you about, how do you approach that? And, you may not be there yet, but you're obviously moving in a direction, right?
I think one of the most amazing things is that when people who have benefited from the system start coming in to run the systems, you get really different results. And so I think, 50 and 40 and 30 years ago and 20 years ago, community colleges were typically led by people who were really successful in traditional higher education, probably had a 4-year residential experience, probably didn't have children, right? And so not for any intentional purpose, but just running things and designing systems for the things that they knew intimately and personally. So to me, the cultural revolution that's happening inside colleges is because people who went to community colleges, who were working parents, who had financial aid and 3 jobs and didn't have a car, are finding their way into, thankfully, into leadership roles. And for people like me, I went to a 4-year institution. I did some dual enrollment, but it was definitely acceleration, not access. We have to stop and listen. And we have to make room for those leaders people of color, people who come from really challenging backgrounds, socioeconomic difficulties. They have to have loud voices in our decision making. They have to be heard and placed into leadership positions, because the systems that will be created you can't imagine what you need if you've never needed it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of it, Deborah, is like this kind of just revolution of that. Now there are people who came through this system who are now at the leadership table saying, no, that isn't actually how it works. And let me tell you what it's like, and for us to listen and learn in that. The other thing that I think is a bit of a cultural revolution for us is finding almost every way possible to hear the student's voice, to stop substituting our own voices for their experience, and to make room to listen. I think Trellis is really a helpful partner in that, right? Of giving us real student voice. I think we have to be really diligent about finding the ways to bring that into conversations, all the time, and not substituting our own judgment for that, but listening when they say this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Well, here's all the reasons why that can't. No, actually, they're just giving you information. And then one huge pet peeve that I will share is when community college leaders say things like, my children didn't experience X, Y, Z. So we have like a rule. You cannot talk about your children. You can talk about them all day you want, all day long, about how great they are and wonderful that they do not have, for the most part, the same experiences as our students. And so we can't make decisions based on what your child experienced. We have to make decisions based on actual student experience, and creating a discipline of listening, I think is a really important strategy for us as leaders.
No, that's great, Amy. Thanks for sharing that. Bob, what are you seeing at Amarillo?
Well, again, everything that Amy said, I think she's spot on. Part of the transformation for us at Amarillo College, we became an Achieving the Dream school back, I think it was in 2012. And a couple of things. First of all, when we went to the Achieving the Dream kickoff event, we were walking in with swagger. We're like, hey, we're Amarillo College. Like, we got this figured out. I'm not even sure what the value will be here. And literally left the event, with our heads spinning and thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, we're a community college, it was like a revelation. And when we came back and we got to work, one of the things that we did that was transformational for the college is we went through this kind of years-long poverty initiative where we really tried to get tuned into the real, authentic financial challenges that face our students. And at first, it's just, wow, Amy and I talking about being in higher ed for years, and there was certainly a time when we wouldn't have dared even talked about it, right? In fact, in some ways, we would have said, well, if you don't have any money, you likely aren't going to go to college, right?
Yes.
But we have to serve our communities. And I think Amy said it best. You have to meet the students where they live, and you have to start to understand where they're coming from. And it's once you start to understand, I think that helps you to tune in to what they're telling you, right? When they say, I can't get to class on time because, I've got to drop off a child. And literally, I think a lot of people on the Zoom remember times when faculty members would lock the door to the classroom and say, if you can't be here on time, you're not ready to come to school. Yeah. And instead, flipping that 180 degrees and saying, what can I do to help? What can we do to support you? What can we do to make sure that you can be in class? Or can we get you in an online section and support you that way? What is it we can do? But it's been a transformation. It didn't happen overnight. We're not perfect, but we're getting better and better and better. And also this notion of first gen students who become college administrators. is really transformational. They do see things that we don't see, and they are helping us to do a better job of serving students. So all good stuff.
No, that's great. And you just alluded to something that I want to circle back to a little bit. Amy, you had talked about, customers and then learners, but I think you would agree there's a place where the customer part falls into the learner part, and Bob just alluded to it, which is the role that faculty play in identifying when there's an issue with a student. Excuse me. Thank you. And faculty, and let's talk about the cultural transformation of faculty to understand that their role has changed a little bit. Again, Bob alluded to it, but Amy, can you speak to that as well?
Yeah, I actually was thinking to Wendy's question in the chat when she was asking Bob about how do you get adult learners to advocacy. That's one of our strategies has been through the faculty, right? And making sure that faculty have regular experiences in the advocacy center that they're very familiar with. They're the best referral we could possibly ask for. And it does, I think, two things. One is I think it gives a faculty member a way to help that is true and authentic and real, and not asking them to become someone's counselor,
right,
or drive them home, or buy them clothes, or feed them out of their drawer, right? These are all things that we know faculty have done out of just sheer goodness as people, right? And so I think it's that, right? It gives faculty members just such a compelling and safe place to say, here's what you need. But it also, when the faculty member says, hey, we've got this place, let's go over there together, or let me call, and it's an endorsement that not only do you belong here, student, but we've got everything that you need to stay here. So you not being able to be in class on time because your babysitter canceled isn't a reason to stop coming to college. That's life. We've all gone through that. And here's a place that we actually thoughtfully designed to help you with those kinds of issues. So, I think that the faculty perspective on that, and I can't say, I love that Bob keeps saying, I don't want to oversell this. Please do not let me oversell this, right? We do not have 100% all faculty, all on board all the time. But I do see a real change in many of the faculty. I think the place that I'm excited to go with, and I'm fairly new at Northwest Vista. I've been there about 7 months. What an amazing group of people to get to work with, and really asking faculty to lead themselves and one another in these areas of transformation, I think will be most critical. We can build all the infrastructure in the world, but until the faculty have the kind of conversations and expectations of one another, I think it's harder to change that. But on the whole, I would say getting the faculty there. The other thing that we're doing is relocating our for sure, freshman seminar kinds of classes into the advocacy center, so that as you come on, this is where you go to class.
Yes.
And so they have to go in and upstairs to get to that classroom. And we think that's going to be another strategy of just normalizing that this is a part of learning.
Yes.
This is a part of being a student is,
Yes.
You grab and go ramen if you need it. And if you need some groceries, they're over here. So we're trying to think of ways to destigmatize and normalize that. And I think faculty are a really critical part of that, but letting them have deep interaction with the advocacy center, familiarity, welcome, comfort. I think that's a place where I've seen some transformation.
That's great. Bob? Oh, you're on mute, Bob.
I had so much to say and then I muted myself. One of the things that we've done that we're starting to see the needle move a bit, we've implemented a technology that is designed to allow instructors and other people identify students who are kind of manifesting at-risk behaviors early on, right? I mean, the old standard was the midterm grade, right? It's midterms, got to figure it out. We teach almost all of our classes in an 8-week format. I mean, midterms is you start class, it's midterms. But what we know, I think that what we all know is that the sooner you know something, the sooner you can identify the fact that a student may be in trouble, and the faster that you can arrest that, the better. Years ago, I remember a faculty member in the math department saying, if I knew when I came into the class on the first day, or at least within the first week, if I could tell which 3 or 5 students were most at risk, I would pull everything out of the toolbox to try and help those students to be successful. And so technology doesn't solve all problems, but the technology that we're using helps people to communicate across departments, right? So the teacher says, I think this student's in trouble. And another teacher says, oh, I'm glad you posted something about this student being in trouble. I'm seeing the same thing. And we've implemented a program with some kind of specialized professionals that we call success coaches. And the success coach is standing by then to kind of do the legwork on it, right? So we tried to do this type of intervention about 10 years ago. And in these alerts just became overwhelming. And the feedback loop was not good because it required somebody to write an email to explain what happened, et cetera, et cetera. With the newer technology, you have a kind of a digital heat map, right? That you can look at and say, you know what? I'm looking at my class, I'm looking at this history class, and I can see the 3 to 5 students who are most at risk, and I'm going to try and intervene with them before this thing goes off the rails. And so we're hoping that that will be a game changer. And the other thing that it does as well, you talk about the distinction between student as customer and student as learner, is ideally it frees some time for the faculty member to get out of the gatekeeping business and to get into the engagement business. And one of the things that we learned years ago from Vincent Tinto is it's about that relationship, the interaction between the student and the faculty member outside of the kind of structured class environment. And if we can free up some time for the faculty member to just engage with the student, we know that the faculty members are the ones who really make the biggest difference. You know what I mean? You can have student affairs folks with the hugs and the smiles, but at the end of the day, these students want to make their teachers proud. And if we can do anything that helps to free up time so that teachers can engage with these students, I think it has the potential to make a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It adds that additional level of I don't want to let them down, right? We have another question that has come in that is, staff and faculty are the front line to students and do often become the lifeline for student experiences, all kinds of struggles. This seems to be compounded since COVID. How do your campuses provide social and emotional support to your staff and faculty to stave off burnout and turnover?
I would say that we're struggling, right? I think things are coming back a little bit, right? We're seeing better retention of staff. We had huge turnover in our student success staff during and after COVID, which just contributed to more burnout, right? Because now there's not enough people and the students are coming back en masse. One of the things that I believe very strongly in is taking good care of your faculty and staff who will then take really good care of your students, and that you can't skip that level, right? So, I think in the therapy world, it's like broken people can't, help broken people. Right. And so ensuring that your faculty and staff have the support that they need. I think that's challenging today when it's harder to get people back on campus. It's harder to have group activities, those sorts of things, just given the kind of social changes that we're seeing. But I've seen a lot of really positive things since I've been at Northwest Vista, including lots of staff and faculty social events, professional development events, intentional time for kind of letting your hair down a little bit. And there's an Amy's ice cream in San Antonio. They have them in Boston too. And so we had an Amy's ice cream ice cream party. And I'm
Yes.
not saying that like parties make everything better, right? But they do kind of create an atmosphere of appreciation and relaxation. And then, I think giving the leaders really good tools. The leaders have to be developed too. And when you promote people because they're really good at doing something and you don't give them the leadership and supervision skills to go along with that, they end up doing the job and micromanaging because they're under stress and it's just a bad circumstance. And so I think that the investments in development, professional development across the board are really critical and helpful. I'm also excited to ask and invite faculty who have been a little disconnected to step back in. Right. We need them and our students need them. And this isn't about making Vista great or making me happy or doing their job. It's about this role that we all choose to play in one of the most important institutions in our community for community vibrancy and success. And I know our faculty are so committed to that and so interested in that. And so I think we have to offer a compelling invitation to that work, really for staff and faculty, and help them see the results of their work. It is a paycheck, can never get away from that, right? It's an exchange of value, my time for money. And also there's so many good things that can happen. But if we're not telling our own story internally, it can become, I think, a real disappointing kind of grind.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob?
Well, just a quick shout out to our recently departed college president, Dr. Russell Lowry Hart, who is now at Austin Community College. During COVID, he had just a great idea, but it was so different, that only Russell could have dreamed this up. He said, we should have a campus chaplain. What community college has a campus chaplain? Everybody's like, what now, Russell, And it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. We have a gentleman who is our college chaplain. He is everywhere all the time, stopping in, visiting with employees, checking on them, seeing how they're feeling, asking them about their families, asking them about their days. And all day long. And it's amazing what a source of comfort it's been for employees. And we really thought that it might be kind of a COVID specific thing, that we wouldn't do this forever. But I don't think you could do away with the position now. I think people would just holler if you tried to do away with the position. It's been just wonderful for us. And it was a real kind of, out of the box idea, and it's just landed here, and it's been a great thing for the college.
No, that's an awesome idea. I love it. And I've had a couple of interactions with Russell. In fact, he was in one of these panels a couple months ago. So I know what you're talking about, Bob. With the ideas, and he's already having quite an impact over there at ACC. It didn't take him much time. But the other piece, as you both were talking, it made me think about, the mental health related issues, not only of the students who came through a K-12 system, but also adults. And I think that those issues are going to be with us for a long period of time, but they don't just impact the students, right? There's the faculty, the administrators, all of us were impacted by COVID in one way or another, and navigating through this space, whether it's a chaplain or having a therapist or whoever it might be, people need some place, right, to just let it out from time to time and be able to move forward. So I embrace 100% what you're doing there. That's phenomenal. I do want to see if there are any other questions. We have 33 souls that are sticking right with us to the end. Any other questions from our chat group or Q&As? All right, then with that, I'm going to do one closing question for both of you. I think I already know the answer to this, but would love to hear your thoughts on it. and that is, how do you feel that student satisfaction impacts their success? And I think one of you alluded to this earlier, in actually persistence and completing a program. Amy, you want to jump in?
I'm happy to, sure. I think they're intricately related, right? Because their satisfaction, especially if we can, if they have some ownership in that, right, and they have been part of that success, I think that they go hand in hand. I was talking to a former rocket scientist, like literally a woman who built rockets, and we were talking about women in STEM, and she was so excited about all the programs in elementary and middle and high school for these women in STEM, and we started talking about that. Once they get to college and they have one really tough class because they've probably been successful, it can be the confirming evidence they've been looking for all along that they really weren't meant to be in STEM. And so I think the more opportunities we have for students to feel agency, feel success, feel that they're satisfied with their experience, that those are affirming feelings to them that keep them there and that allow them to kind of start looking for the disconfirming evidence, right? That they actually are meant to be there. And this is exactly who we're meant to serve and how we've been built. So I'm really excited to start with my new team thinking about, I know we've talked a lot about the deficit mindset and the asset-based language. I think those are really critical things, but there are such hidden ways that we send signals to students about their how they don't belong, that I think we're doing it all the time and we can't see it. And so right. I want students to feel incredibly satisfied when they're there, because I do think that translates to their overall long-term persistence and hopefully willingness to come back.
Yeah, you hit on an important piece, which is nonverbal cues, and we don't know we're doing it. We do it, and you may mean something different. They sure. see it's reinforcing something that's been told to them in the past. Yeah.
It could be something as small as we weren't accepting cash on campus at our food service vendor. Okay, well, if you only have cash, you have $2, right? We're just sending these signals of oh no, you have to have a credit card to go to school here.
Yeah.
No, right. So I think there's just, it's layered, and we're trying to really start looking at the ways that we contribute to a culture of poverty and disrespecting people in our own ways, not intentionally, of course, but we do.
Well, and there are many cultures, right, that come up and they don't trust.
That's right.
No. They are. I will tell you, my parents, until they were in the 40s and went on a trip and had to rent a car, did not have a credit card.
Right. Right.
They were cash. We grew up in a small town in New Hampshire, and they were cash all the time. So it's a different world. Yeah. Bob, let me jump to you.
Okay, two quick things. I think for any college, any community college, especially that's a commuter campus, I mean, gosh, it's a unique challenge to get the students to engage and to be involved outside of class. We know that students who are involved are most likely going to stay. One of the things that we did that's really, truly had a significant impact is we made an effort starting about 10 years ago to try to dramatically increase the number of students who are working on campus. And we really changed our attitude from student worker to we'll pay you if you'll just come and let us, be moms and dads and uncles and aunts to you. That's paid off big time, and something that's not expensive and fairly easy to do. And the other thing that we did, which is it's going to sound crazy, but for years and years, there was not even a place for students to really be when they were in between classes or waiting for classes to start. And so we tried to, as we went through construction projects over the last 10, 15 years, is to be really thoughtful about creating spaces where students can simply be, right? And we tried to carve out nooks and crannies and big rooms and small rooms and quiet rooms and loud rooms, you name it, to have spaces where students can just hang out and be on campus, because we know that if they're on campus, we can make an impact. And if they're not on campus, there's a good chance that we're going to lose them. So that's made a big difference for us.
Yeah. Just curious, I know we're almost at time. And then I want to read this wonderful comment that came in. Childcare, do you, I should know this, and I apologize, I don't. Do you have childcare facilities on campus that make it easier? Because one of the pieces of feedback I heard was they don't want a childcare where you drop your kid off at 8 a.m. and pick them at 5. They want a program where you can just drop them off, take the class, and then walk away, right? So just curious if how you accommodate that piece, or if you don't.
Bob, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, we don't. We have 2 childcare locations. They're very traditional. We haven't been able to crack that nut. The expense is staggering, and it's something that we'd love to be able to do. Along with all the other priorities that we have, we haven't accomplished that. But I'm with you 100%, Debra. We know that would be a game changer for a lot of parents. We got to get better.
Yeah.
Same at Vista, right? Trying lots of strategies. It's a childcare center on campus maybe helps 30 students.
Yeah.
Right. We have 17,000 this semester, right? They're drops in the bucket. These are societal challenges that we have to face, but we can think differently about the ways that we partner, applying for C-Campus grants, partnering with Bezos. It's just going to have to be a multi-pronged approach.
Yep. Yeah. But I will say you have 30 today. Could you have many more if you had a solution? That's the question. I want to read this comment that came from an individual. Oh, it went away. Here it is. That came in, and it's an individual who has sat through all 3 panels today. But she's, I think, commenting on this particular one. It said, just wanted to say that this was immensely enlightening. I work for an ed tech company specializing in, I think it's financial aid, and we have Texas clients. However, this is really something I can take back and see the wins that will help all institutions in our portfolio, like better tracking on who has applied for aid, federal, state, local, and how to service those learners more personally. Also, putting more advocacy in our software to get instructors to help students thrive. So if you were wondering if you had an impact today, there is at least one person who is saying, wow, I really got something out of this. I got a lot out of this. I hope we're still 29 people hanging with us. So this was great. Amy, pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Texas. Bob, thank you for your experience and your knowledge, and for both of you sort of sharing with our audience today all that you do and on this particular topic. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I think Andrea wants to make a closing comment about access to this in a video format, right?
Yes, thank you. We will be sending out recordings of today's panels, all 3, to everyone who registered today. Some folks registered and couldn't attend all 3. So everyone who registered will get a recording. We will also probably post these recordings on our Trellis Strategies YouTube channel, which right now in the chat, there is a link to the other recordings of the discussions in this series. And this recording will be posted to the same place.
Great. Thank you, Andrea, for all your work. And again, thank you, Amy and Bob, for your comments. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who hung in with us, especially those who have been with us for 3 hours this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.